Dear Dad, you'll probably be surprised. This is going to be the most honest conversation I've ever had with you.
Dear Mom, in my sexual citizenship class, we learned about how pornography has made society think differently and destructively about sex. I wanted you to know that I have fallen victim to this and had to do things I was not comfortable with just to fulfill a boy's porn-fueled fantasy. I wish I could have taken this class years ago to learn about non-toxic sex, as well as how to communicate when I'm not feeling comfortable doing something that my partner wants to do.
Dear Public School System, I'm currently taking a class on sexual citizenship. One thing that we've discussed at length is porn. I've learned that porn basically rewires your brain to view sexual interactions in a certain way. The acts depicted in porn, like choking, slapping, or anal sex, have become common among young people. And although some people may enjoy these things, many, specifically women, may not.
In class, I learned about what safe and healthy sex looks like. Unfortunately, it's not what teens experience today. Porn these days is something that can be addictive and honestly scares me. The first time I was shown porn was probably in middle school when my best friend Laura showed me on an iPod that she hid from her mom. My initial reaction was very interested and confused. So for a long time, I wondered about what I saw in porn. Dad, I had so many unanswered questions, zero healthy information, and no one whom I could talk about it with.
I started watching porn when I was 9 years old. My brother had asked if I had ever watched porn before, and as a curious 9-year-old, I went online and searched. Since that day, I have been fed these ideas about what sex is supposed to be like. In porn, I never saw an indulgence of consent or anything like that. I remember talking to my friends about porn. We would have conversations about what we saw, and we all thought the sex porn depicted was normal, and we expected those things of our partners.
Later, I would discover Pornhub, trying to educate myself on how to please my partner. In the back of my mind, I knew watching porn was wrong because you told me years before, but I was just trying to find out how I was going to perform in the bedroom for my boyfriend. As I started watching videos, I began to develop this fear of not being good enough or being considered vanilla. This feeling of not being good enough or underperforming in the bedroom has followed me all the way to college.
Because school never taught me about sexual abuse and unhealthy relationships, I had to figure it out myself, which is very traumatic. When I was 16, I had sex with a guy I liked at the time, and he was 20. He always talked about porn, but I just took it as something he does alone because I know a lot of guys watched it. I thought it didn't impact me. I think you should understand, among my peers, porn is completely normalized, whether it is the topic of a joke or guys outright vocalizing their porn fantasies with girls.
This is the hard part to share with you. The first time I ever did something with a guy was with the help of a porn video. I used it to help me do the right things. I hate that porn has such a strong focus on degrading and hurting women. Almost every sexual encounter I've had with a guy, they have done most of what I've seen on porn, and by that I mean in a harsh, abusive way. It's very scary because this is normalized for my age, and any guy who does not perform harsh or aggressive behavior to a woman would be considered too vanilla or innocent.
Every video I watched had some ridiculous expectation of what a woman was supposed to do for their partner and how they were supposed to look. I have developed habits in the bedroom that your generation would probably consider abnormal. For example, slapping and choking are more common for my peers' sex lives because of the influence of today's porn. From my class, I understand this is because we are following a porn script. What porn shows us over and over again is violent and unhealthy. This is the sexual behavior that is like a script for sex. The message is, please the guy and prioritize his sexual needs while simultaneously degrading the female by slapping, choking, and degrading name-calling.
So when I went to his house for the first time, we had sex, and I was completely comfortable, but that was the only time. The next time I went over, he wanted to have sex without a condom, saying, it feels better to do it without one. So I gave in, even though I didn't want to, but I still said yes. From my class, I now understand that I was manipulated because I felt disempowered. He was so much older than me, and he flaunted to me that so many girls wanted him. Over time, his sexual requests got progressively worse, from choking, degrading me, calling me names, and as he got more comfortable knowing I would comply, he would slap me in the face and do worse. I felt worthless and scared because I believed if I told somebody, some people would make fun of me at school.
The sex ed given in school taught us what consent was, but there's so much more to that than what was taught. Our sex ed class made it seem as though consent was one person asks, do you want to have sex? And the other person responds, yes, I do. And then basically you could do whatever you please after that. We were deprived of the information acknowledged that you should ask for consent multiple times during sex. Frequently check in and make sure the other person is still okay with what you are doing. Maybe your partner wanted to have sex, but they became uncomfortable, but didn't want to say anything because they already given consent. For that reason, it's important to observe their body language during sex. Do they still seem comfortable and happy? If not, communicate and check in.
Watching porn has been my primary sex education over the years. While I saw nothing wrong with it at this time, it never occurred to me that the type of narrative was blocking my ability to facilitate healthy relationships and communicate in my own personal, intimate relationships. After learning about the effects of porn on our brains, it made me wish we had sat down and had a real conversation about it.
Unfortunately, what I have experienced was not uncommon. Too many of my girlfriends have had similar scary experiences. Learning what healthy relationships look like and the red flags of unhealthy relationships changed everything for me. Learning about not just affirmative consent, but enthusiastic and ethical consent changed everything. I was never asked for consent by my first boyfriend, but even if I had at the time, I would have assumed that if I said yes to sex, I was saying yes to everything that he wanted to do. I needed to learn about all the different scenarios around consent and healthy relationships before I turned 16, to know what is good and what is abusive.
As a young girl, I wish I was warned about these things. Porn is something young kids are exposed to at such an early age. I wish you guys introduced this topic to me so I didn't have to learn the hard way. I know it's awkward, trust me, but I would have benefited from understanding what healthy sex and relationships look like.
By communicating with me that porn is unrealistic and wrong, depicts how to treat your partner, I could have avoided unwanted sexual behavior, anxiety when it came to sex, and years of feeling ashamed about my body image.
But I still wish you would have taught me what I am now learning, how to be critical and discerning consumer of media, including sexually explicit media. Taking this class had made me realize that the lack of comprehensive sex education is very detrimental to young people. It is important teens learn as much as they can about these topics before they are sent off into the real world. This information would have been invaluable to me at a younger age. It's terrible to realize now that what I have learned from porn wasn't realistic or healthy.
Appreciate it, though. You like some? Free donuts. All right.